I think that the 12-day war, even though the Israelis did a lot of decapitation strikes, they killed a lot of nuclear scientists, they killed a lot of senior military officials, it seemed to Westerners as though it was a resounding success. But when you do that, what often happens is that the population rallies around the regime because everyone feels under threat. Also, I hate to say this, but when you actually remove some of the senior leadership, it actually makes the military much more vibrant, much more dynamic. The reason why is that you allow for much more vigorous, much more creative individuals to rise in the system. And by removing some of the ossified bureaucracy, it allows for openness, for more innovation. So I think that you will have a much more dynamic, much more creative, energetic leadership at the top right now. If a second iteration were to happen, I think the population would be much more supportive of the regime. I think a lot of these internal divisions that were happening in Iran these past few years, they will sort of die out as the population recognizes that this is an existential struggle for the Persian civilization. The United States, Israel, they're coming in to destroy your civilization. They're not here for regime change. They're not here to impose a democratic regime. They're here to do what they did in Iraq, Libya, and Syria, which is to destroy your civilization. And so I think the people are much more unified. They're much more energetic. They're much more cohesive than before. Also, the Iranians probably learned a lot about Israeli and American capacities during the 12-day war. They know how the Israelis will go about fighting this war, and they know how America will support Israel. So the Iranians are able to basically game theory out the scenario, and they're able now to develop much more effective countermeasures. Remember that the mainstream of the Iranian military are drones and intercontinental ballistic missiles. And what we saw in the 12-day war is that Israel cannot defend against Iranian ICBMs, especially hypersonics. The so-called Iron Dome, there's a lot of leakage in it. So Israel cannot possibly defend itself against a full Iranian strike. And so I think that the Iranian military is going into this second round with much more energy and much more confidence. It's really the center of world civilization. It's a cradle of civilization. And we think that, the Middle East is rich with oil, and that is certainly true. But its major geopolitical significance is the fact that it's the center of global trade. If you want to get from one place to another place around the world, you have to go through the Middle East. If you look at all the major trade linkages being proposed by different nations, it's all centered around the Middle East. So, for example, China has the Belt and Road Initiative, and Iran plays a very important role in that. But then you have the Russian North-South corridor, and that runs through Iran as well. The Europeans have something called the IMAC. So as you can see, in Eurasia, especially in Eurasia, Iran is the center of the world. So whoever is able to control Iran controls the entire Eurasian continent. And as I discussed, the Strait of Hormuz is an extremely strategic choke point because a lot of the world's oil runs through that very, very narrow passage controlled by Iran. If Iran were to cut off the oil supply, then the East Asian economies, China, Japan, Southeast Asia, would suffer greatly. So I don't see how if a conflict arises in the Middle East between Israel, the United States, and Iran, I don't see how this could not engulf the entire world at some point. So that's the conundrum that the world faces. The center of the world is in the Middle East. If a conflict arises in the Middle East, global trade, global oil supply, it is severely hampered.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند